welcome to Coffee and Convo Houston with your panel RE Ready for Peace, Chosen, and Minister Leroy Boyd.
Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Convo Houston.
Good
I'm
morning.
your host, RE Ready for Peace. We have Chosen and Minister Leroy Boyd. Oh, y'all, it's another beautiful Sunday.
That it is. That it is.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into our recap of last Sunday. Family, friends, and foes.
All right.
Topic
So
was
if
violence.
you did not tune in last week, we talked about what Bestie just said. Bestie over there just said. We talked about family, friends, rivalries, and foes and things of that nature. And like that. One of the takeaways that I had with topic last week, we were talking about rivals and how I was talking about how all rivalries are not bad. Some rivalries are actually with some of your best friends. It's just that it comes from the steel sharp as steel concept. That's what I got from that. Then your foes. What was it I said about what was it we said about foes? Other than saying that foes are people that want what you want but don't want to work to get it. They want
Oh,
exactly what you want. So if they gotta take it from you, they don't care about you anyway, and that's exactly what they will probably try to do. So those are your foes, and foes can come
yeah,
in
we coined that as towards jealousy, right?
jealousy, envy,
Okay. So,
that type of thing.
and if you did not get a chance to watch it with during last week live, please feel free. YouTube, Coffee and Convo Houston. You can catch our previous recordings. You can also see these on Facebook on Coffee and Convo Houston. Now for today's topic, if I knew then what I know now. That's interesting. I'm sure y'all have heard a lot of people say that. If I
Hmm.
knew then what I know now, we tend to think that it's about the about having the knowledge or the experience, but I seem to think that it's more so of regret. I think it stems from having a form of regret. Leroy, what's your take on if I knew then what I know now?
I think that oftentimes we are looking for the easy way out. And so when we are faced with our current or new experiences, uh, we see how much we struggle through those new experiences on gaining experience. And I think that we want to over jump the experience, the teaching to the lessons that comes with going through some type of adversity. So we look back and we say, oh man, if I knew then what I know now, we tend to feel that we can make it through these situations a lot more easier. But in reality speaking, there is no such thing and there is no such way. Each man must go through their own personal experience to get strong enough to pass down the knowledge. The only problem that we have today are the human nature is that we don't necessarily listen too well to
Mm,
people that gives advice to us. And so today, uh, according to my timing, I'm going to be presenting scriptures that illustrate that particular theory that even though men and women in scriptures were told ahead of time things that were to come, it's like some did not actually perceive it well or receive it well. And so they went on and went through life and went through the adversity, being trouble. And so we're going to look at that. But pretty much today, uh, I think it's going to be more so about taking those experiences and what we do know now, passing on to those that's in our now. That's my
that's fair. That's fair because to be honest, we have our parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunties that actually have sat down and told us things about their experiences, about their life decisions and things that we may face. And as a child or a teenager, young adult, we tend to what's the word? Shove it off, you know, um, like they don't know what they're talking about. Or the my favorite one was times have changed, you know,
Yeah.
or that was your experience. That's not going to be my experience. And um, the situation's different. Those types of things that we say to brush off what someone that has lived and experienced and trying to impart wisdom on us, we're not willing to hear because again, as a young person living life, we tend to think basically we know it all. Chosen,
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
Yeah, I totally agree with both of y'all. That if I did know, if I knew now
If I
what I
knew then what I know
then
now.
what I know, if I knew then what I didn't know, but yeah, our topic kind of well, I messed that up. But yeah, that's one reason why they always say respect your elders, and listen to what your elders,
Mhm,
lean to your elders. You should always have a counsel so that
mhm,
the seed can be planted. You know me, I'm always big on planting seeds. They're here before you because of that reason. You ever heard, like I used to hear my pops always say, he said, I've already been where you trying to get to. And they'll tell you some things, even though, like you said, um we were like, oh, they don't know too much. The reason why we
mhm,
say this is it's a different day and time. Like
mhm.
it's a different time. Like you didn't have this back then. So that correlates also back to like when your parents used to like remember how you try to sit up and get your schoolwork done. You do a book report, and now you get to go to the card catalog, the encyclopedia. Back then, that's how we used to have to do stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
but then when you do that, they look at the fact that they did not have that back then, and they be like, "Look, you got all of this afforded to you. You can go to the library and do this. See, we couldn't do this like this. We couldn't do that back then." And what that is that correlates to the fact that even though some things have changed, some things stayed the same. Like
Mhm.
all you had to do was get up and go. Actually, all you had to do was get up and go do it. You know what I mean? So sorry y'all, I gotta move around. Got some stuff going on today, and that's why I'm moving around. That's why y'all seeing this. Um, so it even though things have changed or the procedures sometimes change, the results the results the way the game sometimes the players might change, but some of the rules might stay the same. So
Mhm.
having that knowledge still would work, but we tend to say, later on, you'd be like, well, man, dang, they was right. I should have listened. So some of them rules stay the same. It's just sometimes the technology or some of the rules might change just a little bit.
Yeah.
It might be like later on, a 3-point shot might be worth 5 later on in one. But the thing about it is you still got to throw the ball up, and they still got to get into the hoop to get the points. So you know what I'm saying? The procedure still changes, but sometimes the rules might, the rules might be, but it's the same thing. And they're coming from, and so when they come from saying, "Hey, you had this, well, we didn't have this," all they're saying is you just have a more efficient way to navigate through things. So
Okay.
when you have your elders, yeah, you should listen to your elders because not too much changes. More they change, the more they stay the same. There you go.
All right. So, Leroy, you said you have some scriptures to go into this. Now, Chosen did mention that even in scripture, it says to have wise counsel.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's important.
I'm sorry.
I say yes. That is important.
Okay. So, you were saying you have scriptures that can illustrate having that either having that knowledge beforehand and still choosing your own path. What stories are we addressing today?
Okay. First of all, we want to look at the woman's side of it. We know that uh, one of the biggest jobs that women have is to have children. Uh, God, God told the women to multiply the earth and through childbearing. And so we're going to look at the book of Genesis in the beginning, in the chapter 18. And we're going to start off with verse 1 and 2, and then we're going to drop and read verses 9 through 15. And what we'll be looking at is a piece of the life of Sarah and Abraham. And this story is right before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. So it's right before that, where they was visited by angels. And during the time of this visit, they began to talk about the future with Abraham. So this is what the scripture says. It says that the Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre, where he was seated at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw three men standing nearby. And when he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. Okay, and the reason why he did this because this was not regular men; these were angelic beings that had came to the earth to deal with the Sodom and Gomorrah situation with
Mhm.
prayers. And so the scriptures continue. He says that beginning in verse 9, where is your wife Sarah? They asked him. There in the tent, he said. And the Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now, Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already old and well advanced in years, and Sarah past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed, after I am worn out and my master is old, will I now have this pleasure? Then the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh? And saying, will I really have a child? Now that I am old, is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Now, there are many women that have trouble having children. And all through your life, or through a young woman's life, people tell her you'll be a good mother, or one day you're going to be the proud mama of a child, or this and that there. But the woman continues to have problems having birthing a child. And she just cannot see what they're saying. Now, in Sarah's situation, I think we all can agree and understand why she laughed. She's of age. She's a lot older. She's past the years of childbearing. And so she said, the Bible says she laughed and she thought to herself, it's a little bit too late. Angels said something different. And the cold part about it, when she was confronted about it, she even lied about it and say, why did you laugh? No, I did not laugh. Yeah, you went to laughing like it was impossible or it wasn't going to happen or this don't apply to you. So here it is. We have Sarah who knew what was going to take place in the future. But when she heard it, she did not believe. And so a lot of us, as we come up in our childhood and are told certain things, we just don't see us going
Mhm.
through having this difficulty or that difficulty. And a lot of us, we are told things in a harsh and negative way. So I most definitely want to get into Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 22, which is very important because this is a scripture that we speak, but we may not be aware of the power of it. It says that the tongue has the power of life and death, and those that love will eat its fruit. Which one do you love? Which one do you want to eat? Because I could keep speaking life so you can eat the fruits of life, or I could keep speaking death so you can eat the fruit of death. Which one am I speaking to my child or to those around me so that they can have the best situation when it comes to that time? That do not mean that they may not meet some form of adversity to prepare them for the experience later on in the future. They will have the foreknowledge of what they need to know to go through it easier if they listen now. And so we'll begin right there in that area pertaining to listening to things that is for our future, but laugh or put it off to the side.
I'm glad you chose that story because For those of us that know that story, Sarah decided, to take that situation into her own hands.
Correct.
So this goes back to having that knowledge beforehand. That if I knew then what I know now, she had the knowledge, but chose to, like you say, not believe it. And to make this come to fruition, she took it into her own hands, which messed up a lot of things. For those that know the story, this she went to do things and on her own, instead of taking heed to the words that was given to her. Chosen, are you familiar with this story?
Yeah, man. The biggest part of the story just really pops. I mean, how old she was, and and anything can happen back then. And I think I when I read that story, it was on a totally different vibe than what we are on. It's people I was discussing that with was like people back then lived longer.
Hmm.
So along with that, living longer means that you have more time to soak up experience, if that makes any
Hmm.
sense. So, experience always comes in different forms and different instances. Everything that you deal with is some type of experience, and you gain some type of experience with maybe everything from down to your upbringing. Maybe you grew up in the suburbs and you got a couple of cousins and kinfolk that live in the hood, and you go spend a weekend with them, and you get to see the difference between how how suburbia is, and the hood stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then you see how they move and versus how the people move where you come from. I had a front row experience with that. Glad I learned some of those things. So those are experiences. Your life is all about experience. And when we say, if I knew then what I know, if I knew then what I know now, the only reason why we say that is because we've gone through periods where we've gained experience, learning that experience, getting at it. Sometimes you don't think you gained anything at the time until afterwards. So I think if I knew then what I know now, is it's really it's a sensation.
Hmm.
It's really a sensation because whenever you think about it, it's like you think about that, you like, man, can you just imagine what it'd be like if I had knew this and
But we
right
do
then and
know it. The
yeah,
information is given to us. We just choose not
yeah.
to take hold of it.
Yeah, well, but or sometimes when you look at, how they say, in every lesson, if you focus on what like, if you go through a painful lesson, if you focus on the pain and not on the lesson, you miss out on what it is. Like, you miss
We've
out on the
mentioned
face
that
value.
before.
Yeah,
We've
you
mentioned that
miss.
before.
Right, and you miss out on that. You don't really look. It's like ain't nobody trying to. No one tries to hear what it is like. Um, what am I? What is it that I want to say? I'll just stick with that one for a for a lighter example. You don't really want to hear when you're going through because you got so many emotions. You're learning it, but you kind of You're focusing on one or two different things when you're dealing with certain experiences. So you're right. You do know, we do know it, but at the time you don't pay attention to it until it comes back around, and then you be like, "Wait, yo, I really did learn that. Wow, funny how that worked."
Okay. So Leroy, your last scripture was Proverbs 18:22.
Yes.
Okay, life and death of the tongue, blessing and curses. That's also mentioned in what, Deuteronomy or Lamentations? Which one was it?
Deuteronomy. Uh,
Deuteronomy.
I want to pick back off of you, R.E. Uh,
Okay.
based upon the I want the viewers and the listeners to understand that it's correct in what you said, that Sarah made a decision to try to help uh, God with this process. Now, to be fair, the thing that she actually did was to make a decision to have her handmaiden uh, allow her husband to go into her handmaiden to have a child by them. And the reason being, this was not after the fact. This was not after she left. This was way before she left. Abraham was promised that he is going to be the father of fathers. He is going to be the father of many generations to come, multitudes of people. And so during that process, they figured, okay, we're going to have a child. But while they were struggling having the child, it was not happening. And so what took place right after that is that it's okay, we must supposed to help God in this matter by sending uh, you over to Hagar, the handmaiden, and letting you have a child with her. So from that situation, um, a child by the name of Ishmael was brought, and so he was the older one, and so the problem is that he was not the chosen one of the promise, and so that's when the helping process began in Sarah's mind. So the angels not only talked to God ahead of time and told him that he's going to be the father of many nations with Sarah, but he had to come back later on again and confirm that no, you will be having a child that's going to be the promised child that's going to begin the process of being the father of many nations. And so even during that time and that process, and after they kind of, I wouldn't call it messed up, but did what they did with the Lord don't make mistakes, even though
Mhm.
it's made mistakes, and we can actually see and we took place in the mistakes. The mistakes was only made to strengthen and make us better. So there's a scripture that we're going to get to later that supports that situation as well. And so looking at just that right there, that when Ishmael was born from Hagar and Abraham, he began to be we talked last week about robbery. That family also had 12 children. We know that Jacob had 12 children with the 12 tribes of Israel. And so these nations began to clash with each other for centuries and centuries. So Ishmael brought about the Arabic side of this particular, not necessarily even the covenant, but Abraham and Sarah brought forth Isaac, who began to be the promise, the one the promise belonged to. But with that adversity from both sides was clashing. So Israel, when they got out of pocket, they always had somebody to put them back and check them and put them back in. And but they was being strengthened through what they was learning during that whole process. So our takeaway right here, this point right here, we know that we are brought to this earth to speak life. This goes back to what Chosen was saying earlier about having godly counsel, people in your life that will speak life and not death. So that promises that you are thinking of is promises that is going to help you become the better you, the best you that you can become because of the things that you are pondering on. Sarah chose to laugh at that better part of the things that she should be thinking about. That she's going to have this child that's going to be the father or partake in being the many nations part of it all. And so, thank the Lord that He did not prolong any longer just because she laughed. But to be fair, they Abraham was 86 years old by the time he received that mission and that message. So we talking about 14, close to 14 years old, where they around 99 years old now
Mhm.
when it was confirmed. So we had 14. So this child Ishmael was approximately 14 years old by the time the little child even came into being, Isaac, the new child, the one that the promise actually belonged to. So people don't like to wait.
So let's get this. Let's put this in here. So when okay, so not knowing the time frame of when something may come into fruition, it makes us a little antsy and everything, and try to take things into our own hands. Not understanding that that decision in itself could prolong the promise.
Yeah. Most definitely can prolong because
Uh,
we dealing with a sense of rebellion, a sense of sin in a way. And so this is the average kid mind growing up. He is told he can't do this. He is told he can't do that. He is told, he or she is told that they can't do A, B, and C. And so the child is left in his mind saying, I want to do what the grown ups do. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I can't wait till I get grown. Now, the child may have somebody speaking life into them, but at the same time, they got somebody speaking negative things to them.
Mhm.
Is the child growing up believing, thinking about, pondering on? Because sometimes our life will go down that particular path, and we're not even recognizing or realizing that it's going down that path.
Which goes to what side are you feeding? Are you feeding the bad wolf or the good wolf, basically? So it's
It
the things.
depends. You
It's,
so Re, you are so optimistic, and I think that our I'm serious. I think that our optimism.
optimism.
Thank you. It needs to be the strongest as a child.
Hmm.
That's when it needs to be the strongest. But as a child, you soaking up everything, negative and positive. But if we can teach our children just to become optimist people at that young age and just focus on the good, even though you're going to receive and hear bad, don't dwell on that. Focus in on the positive stuff because these are the things that's going to help direct your life to the things that you desire later on when you are a full adult. But our lives get thrown in turmoil when we 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 mix the two. So all of our life we get the good and the bad, the good and the bad, the good and the bad. The person that's doing the best in their adult ages is the person that I believe had remained optimistic during that time period of growing up.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
things stayed with that person.
Chosen. Okay,
What's
so
up?
he says I'm very optimistic, which that's something he and I talk about a lot. He sometimes he feels as though it's a bit naive, But what he's saying, as far as being a child that is surrounded by optimism, um, we've mentioned that you and I've gone to school together. We have 30 years back.
Yep.
Now, you in your music career, this has been on the forefront for you since you were yay high.
Hmm.
Your optimism has not wavered.
Nah. When okay, the one to me, I think the one thing that drives optimism
Hmm.
is number one is focus. I think optimism is a culmination or a combination of focus and faith.
You would
And
agree, Leroy? Focus and faith.
it's like a combination of focus and faith. When you know how one of my favorite things to say, you've heard me say this 50 million times. When you are not the orchestrator of your downfall, then that's whenever you are able to see the goal a lot clearer. You're able to make the best decisions and you can see it's like optimism to me. Let me put this in a maybe a simpler form if you couldn't catch that. You know how you watch your favorite show and you into your show and you done studied it. Maybe you done broke down some of the trailers of the episodes and you done watched the episodes and you got your favorite characters or whatever. And you're able to almost say at the end of the finale, this is gonna happen just by watching the actions and how the script is going or and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. So like to me, that optimism, um, that optimism that's like optimism. So if you go to a performance and you visualizing how the performance is going to be, you get a preview of what the venue look like, or and the way the room is. Soon as like for instance, soon as I walk into a room or walk into the venue and I'm seeing like how many people there, I'm seeing layout, I'm looking at and I can hear the sound system in the DJ booth and I know that and maybe I know that DJ. I'm focused already when I walk into the room because I already know what I'm about to do. That's already set. Then what helps my faith is if I know at least 10 people in that room, especially the DJ, then I'm optimistic that this is gonna be a great performance. this is gonna be cool. I got the layout. I know how I'm gonna work the room, and even and so after I've gotten that preview, it's like, yeah, this gonna be lit. This gonna be cool. So that optimism is like, hey, you got that focus, then you got the faith because you got support with you. Um, in your case, you do the same thing. It's not with music, but you have your poetry, you have your books, and you have that focus, you have that face, and you have a story to tell. By you watching and looking at your own story, uh, you know, that helps people that might be going through the same thing or might be experiencing some of the same things that you experience. So when they look at your craft and that helps them get that optimism too, because it's somebody else that's out there listening.
Okay, which all
So
goes back to. Go ahead. You were about to say
yeah,
something.
so when you wrap it all up, that's that knowledge and experience. It's that that if I knew then what I know now, like it can resonate. It resonates with others that even if
I
they
was
have
just
yet
about
to
to
get
bring
to it.
that.
Yeah, even if they have yet to get there, it resonates to them. It's almost like a warning sign, which
Hmm.
is another reason why it doubles back to saying why you have to have wise counsel. Wise counsel is warning signs.
I wanted to bring this into personal aspect, Leroy. That if I knew then what I know now, if we could foresee into the future what a decision where a decision would lead us, do you think we would stop? I mean, there are a lot of movies like that where people can see what a decision where a decision would lead them to, and they may change their minds. You know, um, would you say that having that foresight would help a lot of people not make some of the decisions they've made? I mean,
Um,
if they just took the time to really foresee where a decision could, the possibilities. It's like when we're planning a business, you go step by step. You have to have the what's the word I'm looking for? Right there. You have to be able to look and see where your business is going to grow, where it may have holes in it, what needs to be put there. It's the same way in life. What needs to be put there to prevent XYZ from happening, what needs to be done in order for production to grow. It's the same way in life. So when we say if I knew then what I know now, if we took the time to make a 5-year plan and guesstimate what needs to be done along the way, wouldn't that prevent a lot of errors?
yeah, it can most definitely prevent a lot of areas. I agree with you, big time. Uh, Now at the same time, uh, like I say, you can be positive. It goes back once again to the child. If the child grows up, only thing the child has seen is the ghetto, the hood, the negative, the fighting amongst parents, the fighting amongst the siblings. I go to school, I get picked on. I go to school and I ain't got the clothes that everybody else got. And you got all of these things that tend to formulate the thought process that when a child or a person is growing up into adulthood and he begins to try to plan, uh, he can always fall back to the pessimistic side. So those are the things that keeps dreams from being birthed, from flourishing, because the person will always try to find, with not even intent, find things that's wrong rather than things that's right. So, in other words, the optimistic part teaches a person to get focused, is what Chosen said earlier. Focus and stay on. Focus and faith and believe that. And that's it, and that's all. All the negative stuff is like it really don't exist. So I think that a balance has to be made in between optimism and
All
pessimism.
right, you guys. I'm sorry to cut in. I gotta hit the mute and the button. Gotta get ready to take care of some things. I'll try to come back before.
All
Okay.
right.
And have a good day, bro. Okay. So basically, when those two things come together and they have a balance, then a person can really, really be successful in planning that 5-year goal, because that person will lean more so on the optimistic part while looking at the pessimism that can take place, that can say, but this is still can work. It's like with Chosen. I'm piggybacking off Chosen when he talked about being up there at the performance and he see 10 people that he know. Well, with me, I'm also a public kind of speaker, and so with that, there have been issues with audio. There have been issues with sound equipment in the music area, in the speaking area, and through all of those things that have actually went wrong while I was alive and performing or speaking, I did not see nothing messing up. I did not see the enemy. It didn't stop me. It didn't like, man, I don't know what we gonna do. I've had uh, things that actually take place during skits and play live plays and different stuff like that, where I'm like, okay, it's time to troubleshoot and move forward. And we move forward doing that because I can, in the end, only thing I see is a success at the end. That's all I can focus on. That's all I can see. So as we are growing up, there's another important scripture that we take in mind. Uh, okay, when God now we have a way the parent is supposed to be looking at you, promise good, excellent, successful future for their children. But we also have naysayers, the haters, the kids
Hmm.
that say you ain't gonna score high to be in the class, or you cannot compete in this sport, or you would never be this or be that, or you're not pretty enough, you're not strong enough, or you weak and you this and so you battle with all the things that the enemy tries to put in your mind as well. So one of the things that the Lord said, because we have to be balance the plan. So one of the things that the parents say in one thing, now let's look at what God said in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. He said,
You said Jeremiah 29:11.
Jeremiah chapter 29, uh, verse 11, it says that, maybe 12 too. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call upon me, come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. And so is let us know that it's not my you may go through some harmful experiences, but understand that the end plan is not the home. The end plan is only to prosper you and help you
Okay.
what may seem to be harm. Because these are the experiences that we learn and gaining strength, a process, beginning to get smarter and wiser, and knowing how to tactically expose what the enemy is trying to do against those plans.
Interesting that you mentioned Jeremiah. What was it? 29:11. I know the plans I have. Basically, what you're saying is the things that may seem like they're here to harm you may not be.
Yes,
Okay, so I'm saying interesting enough you said that because there are things we go through on a daily basis that come against this is what we call what fiery darts, right? The
yes,
different things that get thrown at us, and we tend to boil emotionally
hmm,
and react
yes,
instead of holding on to the promise that even the bad things are used for the greater good.
yes, correct.
We
Oh,
may not like where we are and what we're feeling and going through at that time, but at the end of the journey, it's all meant for good.
yes, yes. Because what if God allows or orchestrated those things for
Mm,
us to go through? And He's looking for us to pass that test of the things that we are actually going through. And a lot of us jump ship before the process is through, before the
mm,
process is finished. And so sometimes to God, that could be sin. In other words, you was not obedient in what I called you to do. Yes, I have you going through some, but the end plan is still to prosper. The end plan is still to become greater. You're not going to see it. You're not going to understand it. The only thing that we can see during the time of our adversity or our issue is the problem itself. And we're always looking for a quick solution, a quick fix on how to deal with it and get up out of that because we don't like the emotional drainage, the feelings, the down. We don't like any of that. And so we're looking for a quick fix to it immediately. But the process may not be through being processed or whatever we are processing. So with that, Sometimes we go through some issues where we may feel like, man, I'm being punished.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, God talks about this. And God, I want to thank God because of what He says in Jeremiah chapter 30, based upon going through some trials and some situations that He's still going to deal with us, but it may not be to the point of destroying us. Okay,
Okay.
in Jeremiah 30, verse 11, he says this. He says that I am with you and will save you, declares the Lord. Though I completely destroy all the nations among which I scatter you, I will not completely destroy you. I will discipline you, but only with justice. I will not let you go entirely unpunished. So there's going to be some justice applied to exactly what you did and what you went through. Where I'm still here to save you. That's the end goal. That's the plan that I have for you to save you. My plan is not to destroy you, but for the things that we find ourselves slipping and falling to, I still have to punish you so you will not go entirely unpunished because I'm still going to save you. But I'm going to do it in a way where it's going to be just, it's going to be right, and it's going to be perfect. And we have to be able to see that and embrace and respect that move. Because when we don't see that move, we'll never really know that these things are of God. We'll go through
Okay,
thinking
so
of
basically what you're saying is that we need to stop licking our wounds and feeling sorry for ourselves.
pretty much, pretty much. Something,
I'm just saying because we end up getting in our own way and causing more uh resistance, I would say, in our own lives, um when I say licking our wounds and getting in our own way, it mainly harping on all the negative stuff, the way we feel and what we're thinking, and that is us destroying ourselves,
yeah,
not God. That's us
yeah,
destroying ourselves.
yeah,
Okay, so if we knew then what we know now, um, again, that's still going to the promise. At the end of the day, the promise is that everything works out for the greater good. Now,
yes,
the struggle through the journey is based on our obedience.
yes, yes.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah, you most definitely want to continue to do the right thing so that the process of what you are going through will be more pleasant. So
Okay.
it's still an obedience, and it is still meant for us to complete the process. And that can be an issue because if you don't complete the process here, you will find yourself completing somewhere else.
Mm.
So some people they got to complete that process in a bad marriage. Sometimes some people have to complete it, it just being in a married, just ordained situation that's supposed to be of God. A person find themselves as a child of rebellion towards their parents, and so when they get into these marriages, they continue with that same rebellion, but they tend to really clash real heavy, even life threatening experiences dealing with their husband, but they never learn what they were supposed to learn as a child. And so we go through situations like that where I don't learn now. Hey, I may have to learn in prison. You can't pick it up in the streets, no matter what somebody tried to tell you or do this or teach you this. You cannot hear them. You cannot see. You cannot understand. You cannot obey. You cannot follow. And so you have to go in and let the guards of TDC, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, teach you how to go and shower, how
Hmm.
to go to bed at the proper time, how to wake up and go to the field and go and hit on some grass. You're going to have to learn through another entity, another form of more harshness, because and this is according to the justice. Because God is still just. He's not trying to totally destroy you. He's still trying to make you better. He's still trying to bring you to a place of success.
The potter and the clay.
He's still forming the pot. And the pot is still, yeah, the pot is still forming the clay.
Okay, so this is like it's a reminder of when a person would say, "Why am I going through the same situation with someone else or in a different uh, location?" It's basically because you basically what I said before. going around the same mountain because it's a lesson you haven't gotten out of it.
Yes. Yeah, you haven't learned what you need to learn per God, by God. He still teaches, he still moves. So that's why I said in the beginning that it's really impossible to know what you want to know back then.
Hmm.
And even though we had people telling us, we still did not receive.
Take heed. Yeah, it's not being received because this is where you get, like you said, rebellion, self-righteousness, selfishness, wanting instant gratification, basically just wanting things done your way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what causes the okay. So I'm getting a very good understanding of things here. I mean, not saying I didn't understand it in the first place, but in order to really be able to piece things together, when we're constantly repeating the same cycle, that should be the first indication to step back and say, okay, there is something I should have been learning here from the get go that I didn't miss. Sometimes it's, as we've stated, just being in your own way, trying to have things done your way, and not looking at the end game.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're saying here, which was the same thing that Sarah basically did. She didn't foresee, she didn't believe the end game for her, the promise for her. So, all right. So let's hit some bullet points. You have any other scriptures you want to share with us pertaining to it?
Oh, I want to ready for no bullet point. You ready for bullet points already? Because
Oh my goodness. You don't see? Go ahead. What you got?
yeah, because one of the main scriptures that I did not hit on earlier is something that we talked about. And I don't know if it was in a previous show, but it's in Romans chapter 14, verse 4. It says, "For everything
Okay.
that's written in the past was written to teach us, so that through endurance, so that as we press through and go through what we are enduring, uh, and it's for the encouragement of the scriptures that we may have hope." So everything was to have hope during the process of why you are going through what you are going through. But these
Yeah, we
things,
mentioned this before.
yes. So these things have been written already. So the
Mhm.
the Bible talks about angels that's recording all of our actions. So certain things have already been written, but it has already also recorded the actions of others, which is why we talked about Sarah earlier. And there's some more scriptures and stuff like that that I'm just going to paraphrase quickly for time.
Oh,
Go ahead.
so you said that the angels are recording our actions.
Yes.
They're recording just the actions or our thoughts and emotions as well?
I would say yes. I would say yes. That is something that I have not necessarily uh, read myself scripturally wise for the
Okay.
reason of the recording of emotions and thoughts and stuff like that. But we know that God is one that examines mind and heart. And
Mm-hmm.
so God is examining the mind and the heart according to Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9 and 10, where we also know that if he examines it, he can record it.
So when you say that our actions are being recorded, that includes everything that we're saying as well.
Yeah. So
Our words are
like
being recorded.
in the book of James, it talks about the motives of men.
Mm-hmm.
If we know motives is associated with emotions, it's not just
Okay.
act. It's the reason why they act. It's the motive behind what is the motive, what made you, what pushed you, what told you, what thought that you have, what did you feel at that time. So all of these things, as God examined the mind and the heart, He's recording all of that. So it's safe to say that yes, even though I have not read per se verbatim, he's recording the emotions and all of that. But it's still safe to say, according to other scriptures, like in Jeremiah that I quoted, that he is examining all of those things. So, based upon what the angel may be writing, I can't necessarily say that the angels write down the emotions and stuff like that, but God understands the motive of the emotions behind the action of what the angel may be recording himself. And
So
so, go ahead.
there's only two things we really need to know that was tie up this if I knew then what I know now. There's only two things we really need to know. And that's either that's the good that we're the motivation behind what we're trying to do, the good, the end game, or the negative part. There's only two things you need to know: what you're trying to accomplish, which is your motivation behind it, what's driving you, and knowing whether what side of the grass you're on, good or bad. Bottom line, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that, and I also can add that it goes back to uh, understanding the plan that God has, for
Okay.
plans to prosper. I think that's very important in knowing now. If you knew then what you know now, because because even though we're talking about the now, and then we go into the past, we talk about if I knew then, the thing that we are understanding is that you did know then, because it was people that were speaking into your life the then. This is what you need to do. This is where your life is going to go. This is where you're going. This is what you're going to go through. You're going to have a hard time with this. You're going to have a hard time with that. You're going to such. They telling you. So now we try to help the process by saying, well, first we walk in rebellion. I don't care. They don't know what they talking about. I'm gonna keep on doing what I've been doing, who I've been doing it with, and hang out with who I want to hang out with, because they don't know what they're talking about.
Mm.
So it's not that they did not tell you and that you did not know then. You knew. You just chose to
Do
not believe.
your own thing, right?
And so you want to see if it's true. And so the harsh part or the harm part is the plans to prosper you, but not harm you, even though you feel like you are being harmed. Your harm is coming from being disobedient. You didn't want to listen. They told you to keep going this path. You're going to experience this. You went down the path anyway. You feel harm. Now you learning through your experiences. Now you can share and tell those same experiences that you had to go through to somebody else who may not be listening, walking in rebellion, didn't want to hear what the people say and want to see if it's true so they continue to do what they wanted to do according to the self gratification part of it that you spoke of earlier. I'm going to do what I want to do. I do it regardless of the consequences. But we see that it wasn't worth it in the end. So I think that the takeaway is that according to where we are at as a child, as a young adult or mature adult, that if we focus on the promises of God and be optimistic about that and say, no, God has plans to prosper me. That's it. And that's all. That's what I need to know from it all. I need to know in the end game is for me to prosper. Period. I may go through some stuff, but like we read in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 11, you go through some stuff, you're being harmed because you was up with rebellion at some point. So you're going to be disciplined, but you're not going to go in entirely undisciplined because of what you have been doing. So the harm or the harshness of your experience may be a little bit more harsher, but the process still needs to be complete.
Mm.
So there is, like I said, no real easy way to get around or go around this. It's almost like a law, and there's no real way to get around it. Every man must endure or go through, and I think once again, it's based upon the rebellion part of it, or the obedient part.
Because whether we want to face it or not, no matter how old we get, we're still children.
Correct, very correct.
We still have learning, we still have knowledge to gain. But at some point, it's about applying the knowledge. So we can gain knowledge all day, every day, but you have to learn how to apply, then do,
Apply,
right?
yeah. Apply the wisdom of others. Think,
That's what we're doing here. If I knew then what I know now, and that's taking into account what others have gone through, then able to apply the wisdom that has been gained from others' mistakes, others' experiences, even our past. Um, this is again basically looking for that exodus, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to hit your bullet points now for us?
I think today we pretty much covered uh, understanding that there is no way around. Even as we talked about things that we experienced or that we was told we do know the thing. We know the thing. And so like we but what but when we talk about the now, we discover our own experiences. When we talk
Mm,
the then, we discover the experiences of others. We chose not to listen to the people,
mhm,
other people's experiences, and we chose to for our own experiences to be birthed, which can be a lot harder uh, to go through. And so, through our obedience, we have a hard time in life until we get to the place of now I have the knowledge. So, once again, one bullet point that I think we need to make is we always had the knowledge based upon whom was in our life teaching us and pointing to us at that time. And one of the next things that we pretty much discussed, which is very important, is if you have a child, speak life into the child. Don't speak
mhm.
death over your children. Always know that there is power in the tongue, that of life or death. And whichever one that person love is the one that that person is going to cling on to, which is going to lead to a prosperous life. And the last bullet point that I would like to make is based upon Romans chapter 14, verse 4. For everything that is written was written to teach us in the past. It was written to teach us, to encourage us, so that we may have a better hope. So we can hope for a better future if we rely on things that was taught in the past to help encourage us in the now moment.
I
That's my
like that. So that doesn't require me to have anything to say. You just wrapped up everything right there. All right. So if I knew then what I know now, I think I would have studied history a lot more than what I did
good.
because it is very important to take heed to the lessons and experiences of others to help better yourself along your journey, to help not make those same mistakes, or even if you are to run into a similar adversity, to have a better understanding on how to navigate through it. Fair?
Very fact.
All right. Thank you for joining Coffee and Convo Houston. I hope you got something out of today's episode. Look forward to seeing you next Sunday.
Good weekend, guys.
Thank you for joining Coffee and Convo Houston. We look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 10 a.m. Hope you enjoyed today's topic.